Hey everyone, welcome back. Chris McCormick, joined by Blake Smith and Spencer Reynolds from Fujikura. And if Spencer's here, that can only mean one thing. We've got new Fuji parts coming to the market.
We do.
And new toys to test with today.
Well, if it started with a V, and I told you, it's probably one of the most popular shafts of all time, could you put the pieces together for me?
I mean, I would hope so.
Yeah.
I would hope we could put that together. But for the guys, out there that might not be as golf savvy.
Let's go hit new Ventus parts.
New Ventus parts, can't wait. Before we jump into the hitting bay, make sure give us a like, subscribe to the channel. And with that, let's get our human robot in the bay and get some balls in the air.
All right, sounds good. Let's do it. We started with the blue profile, which is a sort of a mid-launch, low-spin profile. It's softer in the handle section and then gets progressively stiffer throughout the shaft. So it's a stiff mid-section, ultra-stiff tip section. So we have two other parts that sort of bookend that. If that's kind of middle of the road, we have a higher launching option, which we have in VENTUS Red, and a lower launching option, which we have in VENTUS Black. And this follows the exact same cadence of the original VENTUS family and VENTUS TR. The red, blue, black color combo is the same, right? So
sure.
Mid, high, and low. What I would say, especially when we talked about the red, and we'll see this today, we're going to hit these in a 60-gram X-Flex configuration. But what you will see is that while we say that red is a higher launching shaft, it is a higher launching shaft relative to the other two profiles. Right. We do make shafts that are high launch, high spin shafts. This is not necessarily one of them. It is the higher launching of the family. But we'll kind of talk through that as we hit each one. So I think to start, we'll do a refresher on blue, hit some shots with that, then we'll move into the red profile, and then the black profile, and then we'll just kind of compare and talk about all of them at the end and get some player feedback and rock and roll.
Perfect, yeah. I like that, using the blue that people are familiar with as kind of a baseline. Yeah. So with that, Blake, let's go ahead and get a little sample with the blue part that we're very familiar with.
I think we all know, based on last video, how much I like this shaft. Being able to fit this for a little while.
Yeah.
Really fit into a good amount of swings, right?
Sure.
So I was really anxious for the black and the red to come out because there are different cadences and swings that I wanted to fit to. This blue was more of like a smooth transition and then aggressive through impact.
100%.
That's what I was seeing, right? Yeah. So the cool thing about Ventus is you really can fit to an array of different players, right?
Absolutely.
Fast tempo, fast cadence, a lot of aggression, and then more of kind of like a syrupy swing with like a long release in that red. And as you said, it's not really a high launch shaft. I was telling everybody it was more of like a mid launch.
Yeah.
Because high is
high compared to the others, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how are you going to make Velocore really a high launch shaft? So, all right.
Give it a shot.
Yep, right out of the gate, almost exactly like I did in the first video. Maybe a little further. We're not at sea level.
That's right. You got mountain air over here.
But yeah, that feels good. I mean, this softer handle with my transition really fits really well.
Yep.
And Spencer, with what you've seen, I mean, essentially reinventing those OG profiles with updated materials. That first test that we initially did in Carlsbad at your HQ facility with blue, Blake was able to see a 2-mile-an-hour increase in ball speed, same weight, same profile as far as flex goes, just upgrading into the new redesigned part.
Yeah.
Is that what you guys have seen internally,
100%.
testing red and black as well?
It is. So it's going to follow the exact same idea. So when we're talking about essentially slowly replacing the original family, we're still going to have TR, so you still have your stiffer, lower launching, lower spinning parts. When we talk about replacing the original, it's much more of a challenge to do that than it is to make a brand new part. Sure. And the reason being is, if we're going to replace something, there's some metrics that need to be the same, right? So launch and spin characteristics need to be the same, bend profile needs to be the same, CPMs, frequencies, overall stiffness, EI curves, all that needs to be very similar. So the challenge to us is, how can we keep those things similar while making a better part? And that's where we start to introduce like a new technology. That's where we start to talk about things like Velocore Plus, where we're taking key materials that were in Velocore, we're enhancing the tonnage of some of those materials, and then we're integrating a new third material into the bias core. And that sort of combination or recipe of materials is what's giving us things like more speed and enhanced feel while not losing any stability. So what we saw in testing was the same across all three of these profiles, where the overall benefits are faster ball speeds, like you mentioned, tighter dispersion, and an overall livelier feel while still being very, very stable. And so that transitions through the whole set. So when we talk about things like Velocore or Velocore Plus, we're really using material to make a very, very stable platform, and then we're building these different bend profiles on top of it. And that's what we're talking about today.
Love that. And meanwhile, Blake's just over here putting on a stripe show.
Yeah, meanwhile, Blake's just smashing stuff.
You know, I usually play a fade. This kind of just wants to go straight.
So let's do this. Give me one more,
Okay.
and then I'll switch profiles, and we'll talk through it.
Oh, that's really good.
Great shot.
That's a pretty good representation of what we see on the golf course with you.
Yeah, that's my stock shot. Like right on the money. It's cool because the more you floor this, the better it feels. Just, I think I said that last time, but it's like a Ferrari.
It's a really great profile in that, you know, you mentioned the softer handle section. That's where we hear players say, I can feel the shaft. It's really that sensation of kind of loading the shaft, and that happens a lot during the transition. So players with a smoother transition, and that doesn't necessarily mean slower ball speeds. You're a high ball speed player with this relatively smooth transition. It's just kind of the way your swing moves. You start to feel that shaft load, but it does get progressively stiffer throughout the profile. So after that load point, you don't feel like the shaft kicks or gets away from you. It kind of stays on plane and goes through your swing.
Yep.
So we're going to switch gears a little bit.
Okay.
I'm going to have you hit the red.
All right.
The red's a little bit of a different beast. So we'll switch it out, and then I'll talk you through it before you hit it.
Okay.
So when we talk about profile on this one, it's almost the inverse of what blue is, right? So where blue is softer in the handle section, gets progressively stiffer towards the tip, this does the opposite. It's stiffer in the handle section, softer in the mid, softer in the tip. The reason we do that is when we have a profile that has a lot of bend or flex or action, we would call it, kind of in the mid to tip section, we do need it to be stable somewhere to keep the shaft from being too loose and too overall kind of get away from you. Okay. So with red, we make that handle section relatively stiff. It's actually very, very similar to what we have in the handle section of VENTUS Black, but you'll notice a lot more playability and movement throughout the shaft, which is what contributes to that higher launch. It's just a little bit more kick, a little bit more action. So I'll be curious to see how you hit it. We can see players that actually, you know, sometimes can launch a lower launching profile higher than a higher launching profile, and it's all about how they swing the golf club, where it lags, where it kicks. If it kicks early, if it kicks late, that can affect the loft and impact, which can affect launch angle and spin as well. So we have a general understanding of how all these things are going to go, but every player is a little bit unique. You know, if you were just looking at ball speed on paper, you'd say, oh, well, I shouldn't play a blue. I don't need something that's soft in the handle. But
right.
That's not necessarily true. So that'll be fun to talk about at the end, kind of overall feel between the three.
You know, let me just point out how good this red is. Right?
Yeah, it's a little deeper red than the original, and
Yeah.
it's got that matte finish on it. It's pretty slick.
I mean, it's almost candy apple.
It's a good
really
looking
cool.
family. We're
Yeah.
happy with the looks.
I mean, that blue is an awesome blue. It's my favorite color. This red's not my favorite color, but this is the red I like. So.
Cool. I like it.
Whoa, that felt way different. Wow, I'm gonna have to adjust to that. Hit that right off the heel. Definitely different right in here. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it turned out right down the pipe.
Yeah, I like when you say this is way different. It's still a great shot. That's a good thing. There you go.
That was good. I felt that kick. Yeah, that's a good thing. So at True Spec, you're trying to find the driver shaft, the fairway wood shaft.
Yeah.
When I would fit a Ventus blue or a black, red usually would fit into the fairway wood.
Yeah, we see players mix them all the time, and we also see players keep them the same throughout the bag. You know? So that is a question that we get, like, you know, is it bad if I want to hit a black in the driver and a red in the fairway wood? Not necessarily, because the golf clubs are doing different things.
It's off the heel again. Well, I can tell you that this profile, driver-wise, is not for me, but I can see who it would fit.
Yeah.
Right, so, but overall, I mean, my misses are pretty straight.
Yeah, which is really good to see.
Roofed that a bit.
The thing I most like from a feedback perspective is not necessarily that one is better than the other, but that you can feel how different they are. Because they are very much engineered to be different parts. They're made to feel different. They're made to be for different golf swings.
And it's right here, it's right down in here.
Yeah, and you can feel, as someone with a smoother transition, you probably feel it's not really loading quite as much as you would like on the way down, but then you feel it unload really fast for the golf swing. And
it's almost like it unloads a little early.
Yep.
And when it unloads early for me, I freak out a little bit. I think it's going left because I'm aimed left. Let's see if I can not freak out. There, I didn't freak out.
There you go.
Good. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, that was a good ball there.
All right, let's switch.
Okay.
Now that you kind of got a sense of feel for the other two, let's finish off with the VENTUS Black.
All right.
Last profile for you to hit. This is ultra stiff in the handle and the tip section and stiff in the midsection. So this is sort of the lower launching, lower spinning profile. It's best suited for players feel-wise that want to feel minimal kick or motion or flex in the golf club. It's going to flex, it's just the way it's going to be, but if they want to marginalize how that feels, it's very stiff throughout. That kind of helps create that lower launch, lower spin profile. It's a stiff profile throughout. But let's just hit a few and see what you think.
Yeah. It's a good looking black. It's that flat black.
Yep.
Really looks good with that Titleist head. Yeah, right off the bat I can feel the handle is, I mean, it's not really stiff. Like the TR was pretty stiff to me. It was pretty stout.
That's our stoutest model.
And I liked it majority of the times, but sometimes it just felt a little stout right at the top. I'm excited to see what this one's gonna feel like. Oh, that felt wonderful. That was really good right out of the gate.
So here's one thing I will say about Velocore Plus. That reconfiguration of materials and added materials, that is one big piece of feedback that we got from player testing, was that all three profiles feel better. They feel livelier, but they don't feel like they're going to be too loose or have too much dispersion. A lot of the feedback we got is the shafts feel tighter, which is kind of an odd way to describe it because it's not necessarily that they feel stiffer, they just feel really, really stable. But even in the really stiff profile, it's got a little, it's got a little bend to it. It's not a telephone pole, while still giving you numbers of a low launch, low spin shaft.
That last swing felt like a mixture between the TR and the original VENTUS Black.
Just kind of mixed in the middle, like TR stability with a little bit of the original feel to it.
Yep.
That's what we're going for.
That was awesome.
And that's for players out there that are watching this video and trying to differentiate between new 2024 product and TR. Biggest differentiators being spread toe.
Yeah, spread toe fabric in the handle section, and that stiffens the product up torsionally in that, so torsional stiffness is increased by about 10% over the original. So yes, they will feel a lot stiffer during that transition and load part of the golf swing, and they're lower launching spinning models. So overall, profile's just a little bit stiffer. So this will fit the same way.
Original Velocore versus Velocore Plus.
Yep.
Differentiators in that particular advancement in technology?
Yeah, there's a new material incorporated in the bias core that we didn't use before, and we've increased the tonnage and changed the configuration of the materials that we used in original Velocore. So where TR is kind of special is it's got some visible tech, usually shafts don't.
Right.
It's kind of cool to see that spread toe fabric.
Absolutely.
This one, all the tech's under the hood, like most shaft designs are.
Sure.
But yeah, that's the biggest differentiator between sort of TR and then that kind of Velocore Plus.
And other than the matte finish, I like that there wasn't a deviation from the VENTUS design that everybody recognizes, knows, and I mean, the design itself is kind of iconic at this point.
The idea with this was to refresh it without overhauling it.
So looking at our comparison screen, started with VENTUS Blue, got a good baseline here, jumped to red, and then black to round out the test. So walk us through kind of what you're seeing here, Blake.
Well, so ball speed was really consistent all the way through. I think that speaks to the Velocore. It's really maintaining its shape through impact. That's kind of the idea. Yep. So it's really consistent all the way through. Standard deviations are all exactly where I want to see them. Launch angles very similar. Very interesting that the black was higher.
Yeah.
That's probably based on non-deflection. So it was more stable coming through. I was able to get a little bit more of the loft that I normally have.
Yep.
And then the red was a little bit lower than I thought, but that's probably because of deflection as well. So when it's coming through and it deflects, it's going to really kind of de-loft that golf club a little bit. That's kind of what people don't really understand too much, but that's how that shaft moves through impact. The spin rates are interesting. Lowest on the blue, I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting the black.
Right.
Although those are my numbers, 11, 5, 26, and then 304, 300. I mean, I pounded all of those. They were really good. They felt great through impact.
I think this gives a really good fitting story, and it lends kind of credibility to what we talked about in the beginning, that we have a framework of how these shafts are going to perform, and just how different that is for every player, especially off the tee. So if we start to walk through these numbers a little bit, and you see those kind of higher spin numbers on, let's talk about the black, right, and the higher launch angle. If that shaft is not bending and deflecting too much or overly so in any direction, you're coming into the impact with more true loft on the driver. So you start to see that kind of climb up a little bit. Now, you talked about when you hit red that you tended to be a little, the timing was off. There were toe shots, there were heel shots, and so you start to see kind of some erratic numbers with launch and spin. So you start to see some lower launching, higher spinning, and some higher launching, lower spinning, and it kind of works out to an interesting average. The blue is also interesting, being lower spin than the black, but if you'll think back, you said your control shot that you prefer to hit is a cut. And we saw some cuts with the blue, but we also saw a little bit of that kind of left side of the line as well, which are going to give you those little pulley, slightly lower spin numbers. So I would say, if you look at these as a set, and I'm fitting you, I'm sending you home with Ventus Black.
Yeah,
primarily because all the numbers where you see it, 2600 doesn't bother me at all because you're hitting a controlled cut at higher ball speeds in a consistent launch angle. So it's interesting to see how they stack up to each other, and it paints a full picture because you can watch the video and watch how you hit shots. It's not necessarily just 1, 2, and 3.
Right.
There's different shot shapes with each club that are kind of forming an interesting average, but I would say as far as the consistency factor, the black is really giving you everything you want.
Yeah.
And it's cool to see that you had that sort of, you had those numbers without having to feel an overly boardy or overly stiff shaft to get there.
Yeah, and I'm kind of looking for a little bit of spin.
Yeah.
I don't want unstable low twos, high teens.
Yep.
I don't want anything to do with that, especially if it's going left, because I can't talk to it.
Yeah.
So if I've got some spin, a little bit of control, spin equals control is really consistent with the standard deviation of 172.
Yeah, you can see
Consistent spin.
your total yard numbers. You look at your carry yardage is about the same between blue and black, and you're a little bit shorter on the overall yardage, but would you give up 5 yards to have a golf ball that's in the fairway every single time?
Absolutely.
Yeah, every day.
At that
All
speed,
day, every
I got
day.
no problem with it.
Yeah.
So overall thoughts, you hit all 3 profiles. You could tell the differences between each profile.
Absolutely.
That's really key to us. It's key to fitters as well, that these are different profiles. They're not just different paint jobs. They do different things, right?
Yep.
So overall thoughts for you after hitting all 3?
I mean, I hit all of them better than the TR that I hit well already.
Okay, good.
The red, I hit way better than the TR red. The TR red was definitely not for me.
Okay.
This one felt a lot better. The black was an improvement as far as feel goes, and performance obviously was there.
Good.
Blue, as I said before, I really like that handle section, and that profile fits me pretty well too. So blue and black, I would probably go black driver, blue fairway.
Yeah.
That's probably where I'd go.
I like that combo a lot.
Yeah.
Chris, thoughts?
I was going to say, for everybody out there that is anticipating the release of these and is anxiously awaiting to come and test them and get fit for them, when can we expect to see these in shops?
Yeah, right about the kind of tail end of the summer. So right in the month of July, we'll have these ready to rock and roll for you guys. We're excited to have the full family. We always like to start with the blue. It fits the widest array of players, but there's a lot of different player types out there. And for us, it's really making sure when we have a new technology like Velocore Plus, we need it to perform the same in all profiles. It's a lot easier said than done. We have to do our diligence on our side of testing that and making sure that even though the profile is different, the tech is doing what it needs to do. And that's what we saw here today, which is great.
Now, we appreciate the first look. And for everybody out there, when you are ready to test new Ventus parts, make sure, book your next fitting at your local TrueSpec, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.